Welcome to You Son of a Witch. We're doing a Wizarding Probe this week, and we're diving into two wild tales from the world of flash fiction. Teenage shadow mages, power-hungry illusionists, lots of magical mayhem, the drill. You guys sent in some really exciting stuff, and we found some cool connections, so let's get into it.
It's amazing how much creativity and imagination can be packed into these short stories. They really do a lot with a little bit of space.
Totally. And the first story we're looking at is called The Shadow Play. So picture this. You're Alex. It's gym class, You're just trying to survive. And here comes a dodgeball flying straight at your face. I mean, we've all been there, right? But just as you brace for impact, bam, a giant clawed shadow hand swats the ball away. And suddenly Alex realizes that his shadow isn't just a shadow, it's something he can control. Think about that. His shadow can turn into a wolf, a bird, even a knight. What would you even do with that kind of power? What really gets me right off the bat is how primal that power feels. The shadow is such a basic part of us. And now it's like it's got a mind of its own. It's a really cool way to show inner potential, especially for a teenager like Alex who might feel like he doesn't have much control over his life. And the way his shadow changes so easily suggests a raw kind of power, like something he's only starting to tap into.
For sure. But as we all know, every time you get a cool new power, there's always a catch.
Right.
And in this case, the catch comes in the form of, a shadowy sorcerer, evil-looking dude with eyes like burning coals, the type. And this guy wants to steal Alex's shadow hand to plunge the world into darkness. Yeah, so gym class is officially the least of Alex's problems now, and things get really intense really fast because this all goes down in Alex's house. And to make matters even worse, the sorcerer takes Alex's mom hostage. Talk about upping the stakes. What do you think about that as a plot device? It forces Alex to face this threat head-on, right? Well, absolutely. I mean, a hostage situation, it's like the ultimate motivation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Alex has to deal with this threat immediately, and it becomes so personal. It's not just some abstract evil anymore. And the way the sorcerer bursts onto the scene, talking about ending the world right away, he's a serious threat. You can really feel the danger and the urgency in this story, even though it's so short. And the fact that all of this happens at Alex's own home, it just adds this layer of intimacy and terror. It's like your safe space has been invaded.
Exactly. And the story ends right there, with Alex seemingly merging with his Shadow Knight to confront the Sorcerer. What a cliffhanger. What do you think about ending a short story like that? Does it leave you wanting more, or is it satisfying in its own way?
Cliffhangers in flash fiction are really effective, because the story is so short that unresolved tension just hangs there in your mind. It makes you want to fill in the blanks. Imagine what happens next. In this case, Alex merging with the Shadow Knight, it's like this last desperate act, and it blurs the lines between him and his shadow. It makes you wonder about the cost of using this kind of power. You're left with this really vivid image and a huge question mark.
Right. Okay, so let's switch gears now and step through a different kind of magical doorway. The next story is called Mirrors of Mayhem. So we meet Jasper, a street urchin who dreams of a better life, a pretty typical starting point. But then, boom, a flamboyant illusionist named Damien comes bursting out of a mirror with guards chasing after him, and Jasper gets pulled right into this shimmering portal. Suddenly, he's wearing the prince's clothes. He sees his own reflection everywhere he looks, and Damien, who now looks exactly like Jasper, is being mistaken for the prince. It's like the classic Prince and the Pauper story, but with a magical twist. What's the first thing that grabs you about this one?
I love the idea of the mirror as this magical device for instant body swapping. It's so cool and unsettling at the same time. And it immediately sets up a classic case of mistaken identity, which is always fun. And it can also say something interesting about society. The contrast between Jasper's life on the streets and suddenly being royalty, it just draws you in.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, chaos ensues. Damien, he seems like a mischievous type, not really evil, just loves a good prank. So he decides to have a little fun with his newfound royal status. Issuing ridiculous decrees, turning the whole kingdom upside down. Meanwhile, Jasper is totally out of his depth, trying to act like a prince. It's funny and kind of scary how things can go off the rails so quickly. And then we meet our heroes. Anya, a healer's apprentice who's got a sharp tongue and sees right through Jasper's disguise. And Marcus, a banished knight who also recognizes the deception but gets accused of treason for speaking up. So now we've got this unlikely trio, the street urchins, the rebellious healer, and the disgraced knight. And they're the only ones who can set things right. What do you think about bringing these very different characters together like that?
It's classic team up, right? Each of them brings something unique to the table. Anya's got her intuition and medical knowledge. Marcus has experience with the courts and how things work there. And Jasper's got street smarts. He can think on his feet. And because they're all outsiders, they're more likely to see what's really going on, while everyone in the palace is blinded by the illusion.
You got it. And this story turns into this crazy race against time through a palace full of potentially enchanted mirrors. Talk about a cool setting, right? Anyone could be the illusionist in disguise. Their quest takes them to this powerful pulsing mirror hidden deep in the palace, and just as Jasper is about to take a leap of faith, Damien, who's now fully embraced his role as the prince, shows up again. Another cliffhanger. What are your thoughts on this ending? How do you think they're going to get out of this mess?
That palace full of mirrors is a brilliant setting. It's like a physical representation of the illusions and deception at the heart of the story.
Yeah.
And that pulsing mirror, it feels like the source of the magic, you know? Maybe they can use it to undo the body swap.
Yeah.
But Damien's return, and the fact that he's so comfortable being the prince now, it really raises the stakes. How are they going to expose him when he's basically become the prince? It's such a great dilemma, and it makes you wonder how clever they'll have to be to outsmart him. And it also makes you think about the allure of power, even if it's gained through trickery. It's a heady thing, you know.
So we've done this wizarding probe into the shadow play and mirrors of mayhem. And what are some of the big ideas that stand out to you? I mean, these are two very different stories. One is about a personal struggle, the other about a kingdom in turmoil. But they both seem to tap into something fundamental about how magic can disrupt the status quo.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Both stories, even though they're so short, they show how magic can shake things up. In the shadow play, it's the sudden emergence of Alex's power that throws his whole life into chaos. And in Mirrors of Mayhem, it's Damien's impulsiveness that turns the kingdom upside down. This sudden shift from the ordinary to the magical life. It's a classic fantasy trope, but flash fiction really highlights the impact of that change.
Totally. And in the shadow play, we see that classic bullying a dragon theme. Nobody expected the quiet kid to have this amazing power. And Mirrors of Mayhem is all about mistaken identity, which drives the plot and the humor. What other familiar story structures or character archetypes do you see at play in these stories, and how do those elements work in these shorter narratives?
Well, in the shadow play, even though it's short, you can see a bit of that David and Goliath dynamic. You know, Alex going up against this seemingly all-powerful sorcerer. And there's a hint of the chosen one narrative, even though it's not something Alex was expecting. And in Mirrors of Mayhem, aside from the Prince and the Pauper theme, we've got the classic unlikely band of heroes coming together to fight for what's right. These familiar structures give the reader a quick entry point so the authors can focus on the unique magical elements and the immediate conflict that flash fiction is all about.
And as we've mentioned, both stories end with those awesome cliffhangers. What is it about cliffhangers that makes them so effective, especially in shorter stories? Why do we love that unresolved ending so much?
Cliffhangers and flash fiction pack a punch, you know. Because every word counts, that unresolved ending really sticks with you. It makes you think about what happens next, what the consequences might be, how everything will be resolved. It's a way for the story to resonate with you even after you finish reading. In these particular stories, we're left wondering about Alex's final confrontation and how the trio will expose Damien. That uncertainty keeps the story alive in our imaginations.
Our Wizarding Probe this week has barely scratched the surface of these two amazing flash fiction stories. We encourage you to go check them out and explore more of this genre. There's so much creativity and imagination packed into these short pieces. Who knows what other wild tales full of sons of witches and fantastic creatures are out there waiting to be discovered.
Totally agree. Flash fiction is like a playground for imagination. It gives you these glimpses into fantastical worlds in such a powerful way. These two stories are perfect examples of how much storytelling can happen in just a few pages.
And that brings our Wizarding Probe to a close for today. Thank you for joining us on YUSOMYTCH. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of flash fiction, be sure to rate and follow the show for more weekly deep dives into the wonderfully weird. And here's something to think about. If you suddenly found yourself swapped into someone else's life through a magic mirror, what's the first thing you would do? And what kind of chaos might you accidentally unleash? It's something to ponder until our next exploration.